It's Mirror-tastic. In this smartphone show I look at the Nokia N93i, the successor to the smartphone I filmed this video podcast on. There's also a look at the HTC S620, the only smartphone with a jogger. Find out more in the review. New in the last fortnight, the fabled Nokia N95, you know, the one with built-in GPS, music controls, 5-megapixel camera, has started to arrive in journalists' hands in very select numbers, and this time I'm not one of them. However, these are prototypes, and I'm assured I'm down to be lent a production N95 very shortly, so I'll chalk that one down for a video review in show 24 or 25. The huge 3GSM show is just around the corner, and Smartphone Show 24 will bring you video and new releases from Barcelona. Hot arrivals are tipped to be the long-awaited Nokia E90 replacement for the communicator line and an E65 slider smartphone. The Windows Mobile world has been very quiet recently, but I was pleased to see the first photos of the HTC Athena, a PDA-like device with detachable keyboard, and the HTC Cavalier, allegedly the successor to the S620 reviewed later in this show. This one's got 3G and a 2-megapixel camera. If you use a UIQ3 based smartphone, run over to Cell Phone Soft for their Tweak Peaks utility, which speeds up UIQ3 enormously by getting rid of the user interface animations that look nice but simply get in the way. And talking of user interfaces, a plug for an editorial I wrote on All About Symbian, looking at the trade-off between functionality and ease of use. With the arrival of the N95 and the diametrically opposite Apple iPhone, this issue is going to be much talked about in 2007. Oh yeah, baby. Excuse the extreme techno-last. You'll know that I filmed this video smartphone show on a smartphone, the Nokia N93. Well, this is the Nokia N93i. First impressions are pretty good, with the large mirror-backed screen prominent and attractive. The camera housing has been restyled. It still dominates the top of the N93i, but it's slightly slimmer than on the previous model. Using a combination of newer, thinner screen technology and clever concave sculpting, the majority of the N93i is a good 5mm thinner than the N93, and this makes a huge difference. It's lighter too, at 163 grams, and you can hold it and open it without being overwhelmed by its bulk, unlike the original N93. The size here is the major selling point of the newer device. The combination of the mirror top and the svelte form factor transforms the design into something that's instantly desirable. Other physical improvements in the N93i include a joystick rather than a D-pad as the side controller. This is significantly less fiddly. A flush-fitting and secure mini SD card slot cover. There's a recessed lanyard mount on the bottom which shaves a couple of millimeters off the N93 on which it used to protrude. There's a tethered cover for the pop port slot, making sure you don't lose it. The main speaker has been relocated to the bottom of the base unit, again saving space in the precious lid. And there's a redesigned battery cover that's much easier to get off. And there's also a proper SIM card recess at the top, replacing the fragile and flimsy mechanism on the N93. Finally, there's a charging LED set into the mirror face. Opening up the N93i reveals changes too, although not all are positive. Most obvious is the recessed, one-piece metallic keypad. There are spidery rubber inlays to improve grip and give you a better sense of where the key boundaries are in the dark. Although this largely works well and there's a definite click to each key location, the amount of force needed to affect each key press is fairly high, and the N93i isn't going to be as usable as its predecessor when it comes to text entry. Having reckoned that the N93 had perhaps just about the best display of any smartphone I'd seen in all light conditions, the N93i was better still, at least indoors, with its 16 million colours, giving much more accurate and vibrant colours. Not so good is the change in screen technology, which has meant undistinguished performance outdoors, especially in bright sunlight, as you can see here. The main reason, of course, why outdoor screen contrast is so important is that the display also forms the main viewfinder, and you have to be able to see what you're shooting. Although restyled, the camera hardware seems to be basically identical to that in the N93, but there is far more noise reduction applied in software. The result being that artifacts, i.e. detail which isn't really there in the first place, arguably a problem on the N93, get blurred out to hopefully result in a more pleasing picture, even if the photo isn't apparently quite as crisp as the same image taken on the original N93. A nice side benefit of the reduced level of artifacts is that the JPEG file sizes from the 93i are considerably, up to 50% smaller. For most people, the actual photo processing mode won't matter, and it's not as if you can do anything to adjust it yourself. In good light, the photos are quite good enough for semi-professional use. There's the usual range of focus presets and lighting presets, and focusing is done by gently pressing the shutter button, and the autofocus happens very quickly on the 93i. Then you press to take the photograph. There's also the tremendously useful 3x optical zoom, which is totally unique on smartphones. Video recording is its usual excellent self on the 93i, with 30 frames a second VGA resolution capture, better than anything else currently available. Do steer clear of the supplied Adobe Premiere Elements software though, unless you have an absolute monster dual-core PC. ULEAD's Video Studio 10 Plus is a much better bet. Away from multimedia, the Nokia N93i is familiar on all fronts. It's standard S60 3rd edition all the way, though with the extra tweak that you can run any application in landscape mode simply by twisting the screen round. As with the N93, you can plug your device straight into any convenient TV using the supplied composite TV out connector. Being able to shoot stills and video and see them instantly on any convenient TV is just a huge boon and tremendously addictive. And you can then upload directly to the internet to your picture or video blog using the device's GPRS or 3G or Wi-Fi data connections. Blogging got easier too, at least in theory, with the addition of Vox to the Open Online Service option in Gallery. The N93i also comes with a WLAN wizard, that's Wi-Fi, as featured in the very latest N93 firmware, helping you to define an access point directly from an initial scan of the airwaves. Another casualty of the slimmer form is the battery, which is thinner and has 15% less capacity than the N93. And given that the N93 would often not last a day under heavy use, especially when using the camera, this is a potential problem, and anyone using the camera or camcorder very much will either need a spare battery or a car charge to keep going. S60 itself shows the same maturity as in the N93, with almost 22 megabytes of RAM free after booting, ensuring that memory problems in use are few and far between, even when zooming into images or booting up a Java application. Most people will be coming to the N93i fresh and will be blown away by its features and capabilities. If you already have an N93 like me, you'll want to hang on to it for the better keypad, the better outdoor screen contrast and longer battery life. But for everybody else, this new slimline member of the N93 family is a very welcome addition. It looks and feels like a second generation design, and it will make jaws drop around the world in homes and offices. I know that the HTC S620, aka the T-Mobile Dash and the Excalibur, among other names, isn't all metal like the rival Nokia E61 and E62, but it certainly feels solid and superb in the hand. It's Windows Mobile in its smartphone guise, i.e. the version without Word and Excel Mobile, here shoehorned into an E61 trio-like form factor with slightly small and rather disappointing screen. There's a lot of wasted space on the S620's front, to be honest. But away from the screen size, there are a few unpleasant surprises. This is very much a messaging and internet-based smartphone with a usable, if fiddly, QWERTY keyboard. There's a serviceable 1.3 megapixel camera on the back, for fun snaps mainly, and the usual HTC extended USB port on the bottom, protected by a very fiddly rubber cover for music listening and for syncing. You can also use A2DP, a Bluetooth profile, for listening to music on your stereo Bluetooth headsets, which means you can stay totally wireless. The unique thing about the S620 is this touch-sensitive jogger bar on the right-hand side, which by default acts as a scroll and select mechanism, but you can also use it as a simple volume control during calls and for music. The jogger is an interesting experiment, though in use I found that for every time I was impressed by how intuitive it was, there were another 2 times where it flat out didn't do what I wanted it to do. A worthy but failed experiment in my opinion. Also notable on the S620 is the terrific selection of replacement today's screens, each with a very different look and feel. The variety will either drive you to despair or delight you, but choice is always good to have. I did like the ClearView document viewing suite. It's great to have PDF, Word, Excel and PowerPoint viewers on board, although it's a shame not to have the full Microsoft editing apps on a device with a QWERTY keyboard. In fact, there isn't even a notes program for entering text. I also liked the way the micro SD slot was hot swappable and not hidden under the battery, as on many other HTC designs. Finally, I love the fact that the S620 has, wait for it, Wi-Fi, making web browsing significantly cheaper as long as you pick and choose your hotspots carefully. This is a super little internet-focused smartphone, let down only by the innovative but failed experiment that's the jogger and the slightly small and disappointing screen, the HTC S620.